Let's talk about figure skating ice shows, specifically when a competitive figure skater retires from the big sport, they transition into show work and performing in ice shows. Specifically in Russia, where ice shows are the primarily big commercial places for entertainment, for families, for children, for adults to all come. And it's a project business that is primarily registered as an entertainment company. It's basically also a touring production if you think about it, because ice shows are in different cities around Russia and they're very popular. They're probably the biggest industry privately owned in figure skating as a whole. So each season is planned for about 12 to 18 months for the New Year shows, for school holiday periods. As you mentioned, there's quite a bit of different periods where the figure skating shows are literally run, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the different competitors that they are. But the shows are treated like theatre tours, like concert tours, like circus productions. So they have a lot of meaning and a lot of value, specifically inside Russia. And you know, it's not state funded, it's privately owned by companies. You can access grants to be able to do your ice shows, but specifically they're not state funded like competitions are. So let's talk about the three dominant ice shows productions. So we've got Evgeni Plushenko, we've got Navka's, and we've got Averbukh. So let's talk about Evgeni Plushenko. He has a skating academy, like we know. He is a very titled Olympic champion, world champion, and European champion. He has lots of businesses that he's opened up, and he partners with his wife, Yana Rudkovskaya, which is a show producer and does a lot of producing for singers in particular. But when you go into the whole figure skating ice shows, they are one of the biggest companies that they work for, and a lot of famous world champions, European champions, all come to his skating show to work for. So let's talk about his shows. He primarily focuses on fairy tales, and he usually tours around December time, so Christmas time. Usually his main audience is family orientated, mostly for children as well. So we've got a lot of shows about Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, Snow White, Nutcracker. There's so many just classic fairy tales that they focus on, and the production level is very high. Costume designs can be so expensive because Yana Rudkovskaya is in charge of that, and she usually says that the materials come from pop singers in Singapore, like Taylor Swift's costumes are made from the same materials, Lady Gaga, Beyonce. So they're very expensive. And Plushenko also participates in the show as well. So not only the Olympic champions and other current or retired skaters participate, but he also participates in it. And his business strategy is very cool to see because he has high volume of shows. So within that period of season, they don't tour for 12 to 18 months like some. They only tour in the season when it's available, because Yana Rudkovskaya said that it's really hard to sell tickets because there's so much competition, there's so much saturation in the market that they only focus, that's their niche. It's only winter holiday related. And so they produce within that December, maybe January time, a lot of high volume shows that skaters participate, they tour around, and they work repeatedly. He addresses touring, and there's a lot of large venues, especially in Minsk, Moscow, St. Petersburg. Those are the three cities that they tour in. And the format is repeatable, so they kind of do the same shows every year with the same sort of cast of stars. Sleeping Beauty, Ilyana Kostivlya is the main star. Alexandra Trusova participates in the Nutcracker as the star, and Cinderella. For Snow White, Anna Shcherbakova is the star in that one. And other ones as well. So their format kind of repeats every year, so kind of people know what to expect. They might add another new show once in a while, but usually it's the same format kind of repeats. The reality of these shows that Plushenko creates is that the skating content is much more simplified than a competitive form program for the audience to see. And that is done on purpose because they mostly want to prioritize safety over difficulty. Now, they don't want their skaters to be injured completely if they're doing quad after quad or doing so many difficult elements. Of course, difficult elements are implemented in the content, but they don't want to only emphasize on that because you've got competitions to emphasize. This is an ice show, so obviously artistry is primarily the factor, but also if you're doing higher volume training, you don't want your skaters to be injured. You want them to repeatedly do the same format to impress sponsors, to impress the audience, and to be consistent. That's what's the main role for this. And why skaters join specifically Angels of Plushenko's academy and his shows? Well, a lot of his academy students always join in the productions. They play side characters, they do it for purposes of skaters, but obviously individual athletes are selected, those that are high status, they choose to work there. There's frequent work and there's always somewhat job that they are able to do, and it's predictable income, and they can produce strong branding exposure because lots of people go to see Plushenko shows. Let's move on to Navka's one. Navka is another major ice show. Her shows are also very much numbered and are actually a smaller number of shows compared to Plushenko. She mostly focuses on the high production value of it, so all her stages are always so much evaluated and so big, and her approach is definitely the artistic focus. She doesn't want to produce overloaded of really difficult content. It's mainly about the artistic focus, and it's often tied down to cultural grants, major sponsors, and prestigious venues. So she has a lot of sponsors. Plushenko is mostly self-funded. He did say that a lot of the time, and Navka is an Olympic champion, which she could self-fund as well if she wanted to, but she seeks mostly funding from sponsors and from cultural grants that is given by the government, which you can access to if you're producing many shows. But because she's doing much more fewer shows, her ticket prices are quite high if you want to see that, because again, she's emphasizing on this luxury build-up and prestige over this, and it's mostly for adults, but children can obviously view it as well. But it's more of like an event positioning rather than just like a standard ice show, if you get what I mean. And the reality behind this is that the skaters are mostly casted as actors because they do Nutcracker, they do Sleeping Beauty, they do other productions similar to Plushenko, but they mostly emphasize on the acting side of it and choreography over jumps again. It's like this visual cohesion in the technical perspective. So the skaters usually join because of the status. There is, if you go into Navka shows, it's mostly for prestigious output, and usually those athletes are only selected to do the same main roles. For example, Navka has her academy, and the majority of the skaters are from her academy that are doing ice show work. Kamila Valieva is the star of that, with Mark Conductor, which is the male figure skater. He has the dominant role and Kamila has the female role, and they're usually always the stars of all the shows. Kamila recently joined Navka's academy and now is training under Navka, which makes total sense. And Kamila Valieva is very artistic, which fits the vision of Navka. Plus, like, she gets probably paid quite a bit and is very much stable income for her in the long run, plus building up her public image. Averbukh is another one. Averbukh has an on and off season. He's not very focused on ice shows because he has a lot of other production that he focuses on and has a lot going on anyway. He has a ton of businesses in figure skating that he focuses on, but he's a choreographer. So of course he's going to emphasize on artistry. He does get skaters because he doesn't have his own academy, so he implements skaters from already competitive, like already in competition, and they participate in his show, so much more emphasis on current skaters. He also creates a lot of galas that competitive skaters can participate in, and it's very much more on the choreography side of it because he does do choreography for competitive skaters. So obviously he kind of wants to implement his work, so there's more emphasis on the jumping, on the difficult elements, but also with the artistic side of it, and there's quite a bit of mixed. Those are the three kind of big ones in Russian figure skating. Of course, Alina Zagitova did like a one-off show, same as Evgeni Medvedeva did a one-off show, but they're not classified as like the three big dogs. And so those are the ones that many skaters sign up for some sort of safety net and a stable income. So let's talk about how skaters are actually cast, because it's interesting. They're not just cast based on technical ability. They're chosen for their Olympic medals, their recognizability. So, for example, Alexandra Trusova will be in the main roles because she is the star people want to see, over, for example, Sofia Karteva, who is right now a current competitive skater. You'd think that she possesses more technical ability than Alexandra Trusova, but Alexandra Trusova will still be chosen over Sofia Karteva, for example, or Adele Petrosyan, the Olympic favorite. And one of the main reasons why competitive skaters are not chosen over like Olympic champions or retired skaters in main roles is because they don't have simply the time to be learning all the choreography and to prioritize show work over competitive results, because they usually do it off season. They have shorter contracts and they do full-time competitive roles, which is quite heavy because you have to prioritize competitions over ice shows. That's usually what you do after you retire. The payment structure is very much simplified in figure skating shows. You are paid per show, which is a fee. And you know, in Russia, figure skaters are paid quite well if they're doing lead roles or even supportive roles in figure skating ice shows, because they're so popular in Russia that skaters can be earning very well. Usually it is a seasonal contract involved. Sometimes they do tour in the summer, but according to Yana Lutkovska, it's much more expensive to tour in the summer because it's not as popular as in the winter. Because don't forget, figure skating is a winter sport. But if you're a top tier skater, like Alexandra Trusova, you've got a big name and you are in one of the main roles, you can earn per month a full competitive season. And especially Olympic status gives you bonuses, increasing pay, income, and more of a stabilization in terms of how much money you can earn. Mid-tier skaters are paid reliably a bit less, but the shows do often replace the competition income internally, because income can really change depending on your physical form. So if you're a top 10, you get paid a certain amount. If you drop there, you don't get paid a certain amount. And it's also really depending on the federation, how much they decide to pay. So where does the money come from in figure skating shows? Specifically, it comes from ticket sales. So that's the main source usually, and you need to pre-book the tickets. So that's how they earn their money. There's corporate sponsors. So if you see in a lot of arenas, there's lots of different sponsors and they usually fund that. You've got TV rights, which license because they need to film media productions. Streaming deals, cultural funding. So governments spend quite a few grants on ice shows because they know that the culture, people really enjoy figure skating, and so ice shows is primarily a good investment to have. But cultural grants are only given to selected ice shows. Specifically, if you're a big name, they will only give it to them. So they won't give it to small ones, they will only give it to big ones. So the sponsors choose who ice shows they want to profit from, which ones they want to invest in. And usually they prefer to have Olympic champions. They want clean public images. They want family-friendly narratives and a predictable performance. So they don't care if everybody's landing quad jumps. They care about consistency. They care about image. They care about which skaters are chosen, because obviously people buy tickets for names. They would want to see big names and to see their idols perform, no matter if they are jumping triples or quads or if they're not. Usually when figure skaters end their competitive careers, they focus on ice shows because it's a stable income and they commit full time to it. But ice shows also don't recover extended difficult jumps. They don't prioritize training full time. Sometimes you do need to do night shifts and train through that if it's really like back-to-back shows, that might be a lot. But it doesn't cause a lot of risk like competitive skating does. And because ice shows have these kind of rules and it's less competitive than ice shows and you can earn a sustainable, better income, lots of skaters don't want to return back to competitive competitions, even if they've gained an amazing form through ice shows, because it's built stability and there's standards of ice shows. They like to maybe perform the artistry without having this competitive pressure on them. That's why a return is really rare, but not impossible. Like an example is Alexandra Trusova. She postponed her competitive career, never said that she would want to retire or return yet, so there was always a blunt line for it. She participated in ice shows, gave birth, participated in ice shows again with Angels of Plushenko, gained an amazing form, and Plushenko persuaded Alexandra Trusova to come back to competitions to train and fulfill her dreams of getting that Olympic gold medal, hopefully in the 2030 season. We'll see, but Alexandra Trusova is definitely a goal-driven person, and ice shows fulfill some people, and some people crave that competitiveness, which Alexandra Trusova is one of them. So it makes sense for her to return back to competitions because she is able to do that and can always return back to ice shows and participate in main roles again. So for her, it's like a deciding factor, because either way she will. It's not about the stable income, it's just about her intentions of what she wants to do next. Another thing why some skaters would prefer ice shows over competitive skating is because it kind of removes the element of rivalries. There's no rival to create. People have to work together. There's no one person's better than the other. You have to go against them and see who performs better. No, it's about teamwork. It's about chemistry. It's about sharing bond. And you're building this whole thing together, because when you are working as a community, you feel that if the show goes successful, everybody has contributed and it makes everybody happy. There's no medals, there's no results given. It's just giving your all to the audience and really making sure that they enjoyed your pay. And so the audience don't get to judge who's better, who's not, who's made a mistake. It's very much free. It's just whether you enjoyed watching or not. That's literally how the audience judge you. So definitely many skaters prefer that commercial pressure over what the federation wants people to feel like. Because think about it, when you are doing a competitive skating, you are thinking about the judges, you're thinking about the scores, you're thinking about your whole life. Because if a competition goes bad and you keep regressing, your funding will be cut short and you won't be able to make it as a full-on skater and necessarily also getting those international assignments. So why do many fans kind of misunderstand ice shows in particular? They always think that shows are for retired skaters. They think shows are like declining the skater, and in reality, shows builds career. From a competitive figure skater, when they do retire, it's about progression. It's about having those competitive skating to build up to working in shows. That's the whole point of it. And shows build financial stability. Many people don't understand that it's not a regression. It's for a skater to survive, to still be able to enjoy skating, but on a full income, a stable job. And it builds longevity because skaters it doesn't matter what kind of form you're in, you can still participate in shows and you can still be able to bring the audience what you love and share your passion. The Russian system implicitly works like this. So, the whole Russian system is gathered in this to be able to bring the skater into show work. They have these training camps, which are for peak performances. They build up the skater. Then competitions bring the medals. They bring the results. And then ice shows based on the medals that you've achieved, based on your performances. It gives you a career stability, and then you can participate in better roles or just participate in shows together. So it's not separate. The ice shows are not separate, even though they are privately owned. They're not separate from the figure skating world, if you think about that, or the pipeline. For many Russian skaters, ice shows aren't something you do after your career. They're something your career is building towards. What do you guys think about this? Let me know what you think about figure skating shows now that you have more information, more insight, more in-depth information on how everything is run, how everything's operated, how skaters earn a living through these shows, and why it's so popular in Russia. Let me know what you think down below, and comment down below if you would want to attend an ice show. If you do, which one do you want to? Plushenko, Navka's, Averbukh, and which skater is your favorite? Let me know down in the comments below.